My name is Urban Deadman, and the name of this poem is I Had a Baby. I had a baby boy to be exact. His name was Kennedy Eugene Brittenham, and he died. He died the day he was born. No, that's not quite right. He actually died before he exited my womb. You see, I was involved in a relationship with this lying-stealing, good-for-nothing drug addict, and he was homeless. See, homeless is what you call a man who doesn't have a stable place to live, and every night he's sleeping on a different friend's couch. You see, I had gone to the gas station, and before I can get out of my car, this man walked up to my window and he said, "Can I pump your gas?" You see, he didn't look homeless, so I said, "Sure." As he pumped the gas, I was looking at the mirror, he was looking at me, I was looking at him, he was looking at me, I was looking at him. And after he finished pumping the gas, he said, "That'll be $32.95. I'll pay for that if you'd have lunch with me." Well, feeling like the luckiest girl in the world, I said, "Yeah." You see, I was on my way to evangelism class. I was what they considered a newbie or a new Christian in the Christian faith. And so I had not had a date in over 2 years. So can I just say I was a little bit lonely, horny, lonely? And so when this man came out of the gas station, he walked right over and got into the passenger side of my car. Now, that should have been a red flag, but I wasn't seeing clearly. Well, we went to the park, we ate, we had wine, cheese, crackers, and we talked. We talked for hours. And that was the first day I missed evangelism class. That was also the first time he came home with me and he never left. You see, when we first got together, that first month was perfect. He would wake up before me and go to work, but then I noticed he started waking up later and later. He used to take out the garbage, but then all of a sudden he was telling me, "Baby, it's Tuesday, you gotta take that trash out." See, he used to help me cook dinner, and then he began to sit on his butt waiting on me to come home and cook dinner. And what I also noticed is that more and more of his friends began hanging out at my house. I'd come home from work and they'll be sitting in my backyard drinking beer. And I noticed that my house had become a hangout for all the local drunks. And I'd wake up morning after morning and find another man drooling on my couch. See, I told Eugene this wasn't working for me, and I needed to go home. So we packed up his clothes, put him in his little bag, and I dropped him back off at his cousin's house. And I went home. And I had to have a long talk with God. See, and I was telling God, "You have got to get me out of this relationship. I know that this relationship is no good for me." And I remember opening my Bible and I read the story of David and Bathsheba. See, David had sinned against God and he had gotten this other man's wife pregnant. And then he got the man killed. So a prophet had come to David and told David the consequences for his sin was that he was going to have a child and that child was going to die. Well, that night I had a dream. I had a dream that I went home, I got pregnant, and my baby died. And I swore I heard God tell me that if I went back with Eugene, that's what was gonna happen. Well, when I got home, he was sitting on my doorstep. See, he had a bouquet of roses, this cheap gold-plated ring, and he told me he loved me, and I knew that this time it was going to work. See, what happened was while I was gone, Eugene had broken into my house. See, I used to have these small closets, and Eugene turned my small closets into walk-in closets. I always wanted walk-in closets. And one closet was his clothes, and the other was mine. Now, instead of calling the cops, I knew this was love, this was a new beginning, and we were gonna start over. Well, he moved back in. And for the first month, things were great. That imposter that I had met had left. And see, the Eugene I met at the gas station had come back. And things were good, they were real good. And then I found out I was pregnant. And immediately that dream came back to me. And I was beginning to get scared. But then again, I was 31 having my first baby and I had my man by my side. And I knew this time it was gonna work. So I told Eugene about the pregnancy. And then I noticed he began to change. All of a sudden he started saying out later and later. See, he would take me to work in my car and forget to pick me up if he came at all. It was always 2 hours late. And then I noticed more and more of my money came up missing. And I was beginning to get scared. And I remember the day I found out the baby was a boy. And I was so excited to tell Eugene about the baby. So that night he had come home, but before he got there, I had cooked dinner. I had dinner all laid out and he came home 2 hours later, right? But when he walked in the door, I'm like, "Baby, how you doing?" "Ooh, you must have had a rough day at work because you sure smell funny," I said jokingly as I pat him on the back. "Leave me alone," he said. "What? I was just gonna tell you we're having a boy," I said all excited. See, I don't remember what happened after that. What I do remember, there was a lot of yelling and a lot of cussing and a lot of fussing. I don't know what he said or what I said because I felt like I had blacked out. But when I came to, I remember him sitting at the table with his head in his hands. And I felt like I was in one of those Charlie Brown commercials because I heard it was wah, 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 wah. I'm sorry, wah, 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 wah. It's not as if it was all the money you had. Wah, wah, wah. I told you I'll pay you back. See, that's when I found out Eugene had a crack habit. What he did is he took money out of my account. He thought he can go buy him a big package and he'll be able to sell it. But what happened was him and his friends started smoking a bit. They smoked a bit. He said he sold a bit, but the rest of it was stolen. Well, I don't know what happened because for a minute there I must have lost my mind. Because you see, I picked up this hammer and I got ready to throw it at him. He grabbed me by my shoulders and he said, "Baby, I know I messed up, but if you hit me again, I'm gonna knock the hell out of you." And he got ready to leave the room. See, I don't know what happened because see, it was my hand. My hand, you see, it picked up the hammer and I threw the hammer at him. And what I heard was the hammer hit his head. And then I heard the hammer hit the floor. And the room got quiet. It was so much silence in the room, it was deafening. I didn't know the silence could be so loud. And all of a sudden I heard the word, "Run." And I got up running, thinking I could run down the hall and make it to the bathroom before he caught me. But he caught me. And he took his fist and he hit me in my head, in my shoulder, in my back, and in my stomach. I fell down the side of the wall and he looked at me and he said, "Baby, I know I messed up, but if you ever hit me again, I'll kill you." So Eugene got up and he walked out of the house. Well, that night I cried. I cried because I was so stupid. I cried because I let loneliness make a decision for me. And I cried because here I was pregnant. And all of a sudden I started wishing such horrible things on my baby. I asked God if he would please just take my baby and not let my baby be born to a drug addict and a dumb mother, that things would be great. Because I really knew that if God took my baby wouldn't have to face the pain of growing up with me. And so night after night I prayed the baby would die. Well, that night I went to work. And all the way home from work I was thinking, is he gonna be there? Are we gonna apologize and make things right? But when I got home, when I found out that Eugene had come back and he had taken everything. He took my furniture, the pictures off the wall, even the food in the refrigerator. The only thing that was left of him and I together was this unborn baby in my stomach. But I had to continue. So I continued going home and going to work and going to school. I continued living my life every day. You see, my sisters wanted to throw me a baby shower, and I kept telling them, there's no need to throw a baby shower for my baby because my baby won't be born. And my sister would always think I was crazy. And I told my sister about the dream. She said, "Baby, that's not the way God works. That's not the way it's going to work." But I was so sure in my heart that my baby was going to die. So she wanted to throw me this baby shower, and I kept telling her no. But one day I came home, it was 12 o'clock on a Friday, and they had thrown me a surprise baby shower. At first, everything was great. At about 1:30, I sat down and opened the presents, and as I was sitting there, I felt my baby die inside me. So I got up and I went to the doctor. I said, "Doctor, my baby's dead." The doctor said, "Well, how do you know?" I told the doctor about my dream, and he said, "Girl, go home. All first-time mothers are a little bit crazy. It'll be all right. Come back Monday morning, I'll examine you again." So on Monday morning, I got up and I went to the doctor. I was like, "Doctor, my baby's dead." So he had the nurse to examine me. And they came back and they said, "No, babe, everything's fine. You'll be okay." That Wednesday morning, I got up and I went back to the doctor. I said, "Doctor, my baby is dead." This time he had the nurse to do an ultrasound. And the nurse sat there for a long time, just floating around. She wouldn't say a word. Then she went and got the doctor. It took them 28 minutes to tell me what I already knew. You see, my baby had died. Now, that was a Wednesday. He told me I had to carry the baby till that Saturday anyway. So I went in that Saturday thinking they'd just cut me open and take the baby out. But instead, I had to do all the things I learned in Lamar's class. He told me, breathe, breathe, push, breathe, breathe, push. And with every push, I could feel the baby's bones breaking. It felt to me like there was a Chico stick piece of candy inside of my vaginal walls, and every time I would push, another bone would break. I thought the head hurt, but the shoulders were the worst part. I had a baby boy to be exact. His name was Kennedy Eugene Brittingham. He was 8 pounds, 5 ounces. He was this reddish brown color and a head full of curly hair. He died. He died the day he was born. No, he actually died 5 days before he exited my womb. In reality, in my heart and mind, he died before he was conceived. Who can I turn to? Who can I turn to in times of need? Who can I call? Who would come and see about me? I need someone to hear my plea. I need a friend, someone who needs me. I learned this song when I was in high school. You see, I had joined our high school gospel choir because there was a brother in this choir, John Jones, and he was fine. Now, I didn't get John, but I did get that song. And that song has stuck with me all my life. You know, I remember the first time that song came to me because I'm from a family of 11. See, I have 5 sisters by one dad, then there's me. Then I have 2 sisters by another dad, and they have the same dad. Then I have additional sisters and brothers. But what happened was, oh, stop, please. Okay, can we stop? Sorry. Sorry. Who can I turn to in times of need? Who can I call? Who would come and see about me? I need someone to hear my plea. I need a friend, someone who needs me. I learned that song when I was back in high school. See, there was his brother in our high school gospel choir, John Jones, and I wanted to meet him, so I joined the choir to meet him. Well, I didn't get John, but that song stuck with me. See, I'm from a family of 11. We always joke with my mom about being married 6 times to 3 different guys. But out of all the kids born by my dad, I was the only one who my sisters and brothers couldn't seem to get along with. Well, it really wasn't me they didn't get along with, but they didn't get along with my dad. But because they didn't get along with him, they often said that they didn't like me either. Well, my dad didn't know how to fit into that kind of family dynamics, so oftentimes I would have to always hang out with him. What he would do sometimes was buy me things that he knew they wanted. And the more he did that, the more they thought they didn't like me. Well, my dad was a little bit weak in the area of trying to fit in with that. So sometimes when he was really depressed, I would have to go in the back room and sit with him. And while I was sitting with him, he would oftentimes tell me about how he wanted to die. How he knew that nobody in that family loved him. And so he would sit there and he would take his gun and he would put it to his head. One day he even told me I could pull a trigger if I wanted to. Well, my mom wanted to get me away from that. So sometimes she'll send me to my cousin's house. See, my cousin was 22 and I was only 12 at the time. And he was quick to remind me that don't nobody love you in that family. You might as well let me. So he was the one who taught me all about sex. Well, I had no desire to live. I had no desire to be. So I remember one day I was sitting on the edge of the tub and I had a handful of aspirins in my hand and I also had a cup of water. So I take a handful of aspirins and I drink a cup of water. And I take a handful of aspirins and I drink a cup of water. And all the while I was singing that song. Please, give me something to hold on to, comfort me. When I woke up, I was laying in Ingalls Memorial Hospital. And my mom was standing over my bed and she was looking at me and she said, "How dare you? Everyone knows I work in this hospital and they're all gonna know." Well, I went on and I went to college, and after I graduated from college, I moved to Atlanta, Georgia. You see, I had already decided that I didn't want any weak men in my life, so I began to hang out at gay clubs and attend all gay activities. But at the time, that environment was filled with a lot of drugs and a bunch of alcohol, and I had become addicted to crack cocaine. Well, also, I had been to jail. I went to jail the first time, and you would have thought I learned my lesson. But then I went to jail a second time and a third time, and that's when I realized I just didn't want to be. So I was at this MARTA gas station. I don't know if you've ever been to MARTA, but MARTA's train platforms, they're all gray. And then there's this thick gray line. There's always a security guard standing there because they didn't want people to cross that line, because sometimes people would cross that line and try to kill themselves. So I was at the platform and I was singing that song. Sometimes, as I walk the street alone, wondering which way to go, all I could do is, because this is falling. Who can I turn to? Who can I turn to in times of need? Who can I call? Who would come and see about me? I need someone to hear my plea. I need a friend, someone who needs me. I learned that song when I was in high school. See, there was this brother in our high school choir, John Jones, and brother was fine, so I wanted to get to know him. Well, I didn't get to know John, but I did get to know that song. And you see, that song stuck with me. I'm from a family of 11, you know, and we're always joking with my mom that she was married 6 times to 3 different guys. But the thing is, I was the only child by my dad. So my sisters and brothers didn't really like my dad. He really wasn't fitting in with our family. So what he would do sometimes is he would buy me things he knew they want. Like one time he bought me a doll that was taller than I was, and my sisters were so angry with me. Well, because I was his only child, sometimes when he felt really bad, I would have to go in the back room and sit with him. And while he was there, I would watch him, and he would sit there, and he would be crying. And he would always tell me how nobody loved him and nobody wanted to be near him. And I remember he would often get this gun. And he would take the gun and he would put it to his head and tell me that he might as well die because nobody wanted to love him anyway. One day he even offered to let me pull the trigger. Well, I'm not sure exactly what my mom thought was going on in the room, but I know she knew it was something because she would often send me to my cousin's house. At the time, my cousin was 22, and he would oftentimes remind me how nobody loved me anyway, so I might as well let him love me. So he taught me all about sex. Well, not feeling like I belonged anywhere, not wanting to be anymore, I took lessons from my dad, and I might as well kill myself as well. So I remember this day I was in my bathroom, and I was singing this song as I sat on the edge of the tub. And I was just singing. But at the same time, I had a cup of water and a big bottle of aspirin, because when I was younger, they used to make aspirin in this big bottle. So I was sitting there with the aspirin, and I was singing my song. Please, give me something to hold on to, comfort me. And as I was singing, I would eat a handful of aspirin, and I'd drink a cup of water. And then I'd eat a handful of aspirin, and I would drink a cup of water. But I kept singing that song. Please, give me something to hold on to, comfort me. When I woke up, I was laying in Eagle Memorial Hospital, and my mom was standing on the side of my bed, and she looked at me and said, "How dare you? Now everyone's gonna know. You know I work in this hospital." I went on and I raided through the rest of high school, and I'd even gone to college. But I knew then that I didn't want to date a man. I didn't want any weak men in my life. So I began hanging out at gay clubs and at gay bars. And back in that time, the bars are all filled with a bunch of drugs and alcohol. And I became addicted. Not only that, I started doing things that I probably shouldn't have done because I ended up in jail. Okay, 1 time, 2 times. Okay, it took me 3 times before I realized that my life had really gone crazy. And again, I just didn't want to be. So I remember I was at the MARTA station in Atlanta. I don't know if you've ever been there, but they have this long gray platform. And then they have this dark line. See, the dark line is put there because they don't want anyone to cross that line, because people were known to cross that line and jump to their deaths. But I was standing on the platform and that song haunted me. And I remember walking around singing, sometimes as I walk the street alone, wondering which way to go, all I could do is look up and say, Master, take my hand and lead me on. And I noticed that the more I sang that song, the closer I was walking to the line they didn't want us to cross. And I remember hearing the security guard go, ma'am. When I woke up, I was in Grady Memorial Hospital in Atlanta. I had broken my back, my leg, had 2 fractured ribs. So I got to the hospital. And when I did, I met this girl named Sai. And Sai started telling me all about this man, Jesus. Like I wanted to know all about this man who loved me. Someone loved me? I couldn't believe that. And every time I talked to her, she would try to tell me that this man loved me, and all I had to do was come to Christ. Well, I decided to leave that end of town. I left what they call Atlanta and moved 45 minutes north, where I had to change my friends, change my life. But I did join a church. And I was in church every time the church doors open. You name the class I was taking because I was determined to live right. And then I met a man. I met this man and we were in this incredible relationship. And somehow along the way I thought I had disappointed God. I didn't want to continue to go to church week after week, standing up in front of these people, knowing that I had sinned, but yet here I was teaching all of these people all the things that I had learned about this man, Jesus, that I found loved me. So there was this day this song came back to me. I remember that because I was sitting in my bathroom, and again, I was sitting in front of the mirror, and I was disappointed in myself because I knew this time what I did not only disappointed me, it disappointed God. Because in my heart of hearts, I knew that I had killed my child. And I also knew everyone would know about my sin. So I remember sitting there thinking, okay, God, I've tried this twice. There's no way I can keep failing at this. So this time I had grabbed a gun because that's what my dad did. So I had the gun and I was praying. And I'm like, God, I know I've sinned against you. And he said, read. He wanted me to read the Bible, but when I opened up my Bible, I opened to the book of Samuel. See, Samuel's mom wanted a baby really bad. And after she had this baby, she took the baby and presented him before the king. And the baby was being raised in the house of God. And it said that Samuel ministered unto the Lord. But then I kept reading. And it said Samuel worshiped the Lord. And then I kept reading, and it said Samuel worshiped unto the Lord. And I'm like, what does this have to do with what I'm going through? And then I kept reading, and what I read was it said that though Samuel was worshiping before the Lord, and he knew the Lord had called his name, and it said that he did not recognize the voice of the Lord. And then what I heard was, you're worried about all those people in that church talking about you. Just because they're in there Sunday after Sunday worshiping me and praising me, they would not know my voice if they heard it. But God, I know I've disappointed you. He said, haven't you been reading? Haven't you been paying attention? David was a man after my own heart, but I loved him. And then there was Paul. He persecuted Christians, but God loved him. He said, don't you know I knew what you were going to do before you even did it? And I've already forgiven you? And I'm thinking, you can't forgive me because I know what I've done. He told me, child, I love you. I loved you before you were even born. I know every head on your head, and I still loved you. It took me all of that to realize that no matter what I go through or what I've done, God has already forgiven me. So now I have a new song. Got a story to tell you about some things that I've been through, but I'm healed. It's because of God that I'm healed, and now I can live.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I go by the name of Speaks with Beazt, and I'm here to share my story with you. The overdose. Back when Zach was distracted by anxiety attacks due to the fact that I was drugged out and self-esteem I've lacked, throwing up like I had Epicac and a black Camelback, sip that, sit back, relax, throwing up bacon fat. But wait, in a yard with a basketball hoop, it was gated. Pills and plastic cups and a roommate that I hated. Cursing out everybody who stayed in my way. I don't remember, but blacking out seemed to shorten my day. Is this world real nor fake? I'm neither here nor there. Tearing out my hair, walking like I fear no bear. Fear no man except the guy who straps you down to the bed and tries to put exaggerated good thoughts in my head. My mother was there. Thank God I love her, I hugged her. Living like there was no tomorrow, 3 feet deep in my sheets. Like a newborn with the noose on, shivering so cold, looking for the gold, reaching for the code, but there was no place to go. The overdose grabbed the remote for another episode. I changed the channel because the devil shows his face in the show. Man, I don't know. Needles, NyQuil, and nurses, man, I don't need this. But Speaks with Beazt can beat this, the overdose.
From the front, pink top with the cannons out. Told me how much she loved my performance score. I always do it big.
This one is I'm Not Going Back. See, cause these streets keep trying to say, Beazt, come back around this way. I've already gone that way. I won't go back again. These streets keep trying to say, Beazt, come back around this way. I've already gone that way, and I won't go back again. My man Ernie G said, Zach, do not go back. Chill out with your girl, relax, and rubber fact, Rudy smacks, chillax. This isn't at school like Zach, you hide in the ceiling. At this point in my life, I was only about pilling. Riding around buying pills from the next guy who could have known a few months later your nigga could have died. Oh wow, I'm a square now? My nigga. Because I stopped popping pills don't mean shit, nigga. My family dried, but my body dropped. I feel the pills that were used in the pop. Okay, cut. So let's get that one up. This one is part 2. So I'm not going back. See, these streets keep trying to say, Beazt, come back around this way. I've already gone that way. I won't go back again. These streets keep trying to say, Beazt, come back around this way. I've already gone that way. I won't go back again. My man Ernie G said, Zach, do not go back. Chill out with your girl and rub her fat, gluteus max, relax. This isn't at school like Zach, you hide in the ceiling. At this point in my life, I was only about pilling. Riding around buying pills from the next guy who could have known a few months later your nigga could have died. Oh wow, I'm a square now? My nigga. Just because I stopped popping pills don't mean shit, nigga. My family cried when my body dropped. I know the pills that were used and the profit the dealer got. Because of what I've become, I'm still within earshot of it all. The top 10 list of the most grimiest drugs of all time is all talk. When you're talking V-Town, y'all. Who to call just to get your yay from? I ducked out of my granny's house to play it safe, son. Sinning and lusting so quick they fucked up with jobs and fucked up their trucks. And I know the town they spend the most time and when they grinding. By this time I've been up for hours and I'm hiding. The milk outside is going sour and I'm not going back. These streets keep trying to say, Beazt, come back around this way. I've already gone that way. I won't go back again. These streets keep trying to say, Beazt, come back around this way. I've already gone that way. I won't go back again.
After party out in Richmond, Virginia for sure. Dance floor packed, but she the one that's standing out. Edge from the front, pink top with the cannons out. Told me how much she loved my performance score. I always do it big.